Got my wires all tucked back in there. Still have to tape the harness yet. It's got a real nice look from the side. You can see right through the little opening by the battery. Overall, looking pretty good. Got a few more things left to do. Still got to finish wiring all the switches up front. But overall, I've got all the big stuff wired. Everything is wired to the module. Now right here you can see that we have a Moto Gadget M unit. Looks a little messy, but it's still pretty darn clean. This is all my wires going up to the headlight. A couple more in here. Ground wire coming off the battery. I still have to wire that to the regulator rectifier down here. Made a nice bracket for that. I have a positive lead here coming off of the battery into a weather packed fuse. I've got a 30 amp fuse in here, and that goes into my M unit module. And as you can see here, I have all the banks labeled on the module. This is all the stuff going out to the accessories, and this is all the stuff coming in. As you can see, there's not as many things coming in as going out, and that is because this little wire right here is plugged into the configuration bank, and what that does is it runs all the way up here to the headlight, where I have the Moto Gadget M button splitter. And this grounds, and all I have to do is hook this up to all my factory switches. Ground the switches, ground this, everything's grounded to the frame. And pretty good system. So as you see, I can turn on the module. The lights run. I have a tail light now. Working tail light with an expired license plate. And if I hit the brake down here on my rear sets, you can see that the light pulses every time you hit it. And that is programmable through the module. And this thing's great because you can always tell which circuits are lighting up. So you can see that the moment I hit the brake circuit lights up, the module spits it out, and lights up the light. Anti-gravity 12-cell lithium battery. These things are very temperamental, but they also come with a 3-year warranty, which isn't horrible. I think if it fails on me within the first 3 months, they replace it. After those first 3 months, it's about, up to the first year, you get 75% off your next battery, and then it tapers after that. 50% the second year, 25% off the third year. But I'm going to try my best to make sure that I keep up on it. You can't let those batteries go below 11 volts or else they are no longer any good. They will no longer charge after that. So very temperamental. You have to be careful when you start the bike. After 3 hard cranks, you have to let the battery cool down for 5 to 10 minutes, because if you overheat the battery, it will melt down on you. So some fun things right there. When I start tuning up my carburetors, I'm gonna wire up my old battery, my lead acid battery. Therefore, I can crank on it all I want and I don't have to worry about damaging the lithium battery. But other than that, I've got some Rika rear sets on here on both sides. I have some Heim joints with a linkage. Made a couple brackets here. Made one for the starter solenoid. Also made one for the rear brake light switch. Engine, didn't do a whole lot of work to it. I did swap out the number 2 idler gear. That's on the other side, and that's a huge problem on these bikes, strictly because they don't engage with the starter before the gear starts spinning. Like on most modern vehicles, the gear spins, and the centrifugal force on a worm gear throws it out to the starter, so they get pretty beat up. I replaced mine and it worked pretty well. You can still get the parts through any Yamaha dealership. Did replace all the gaskets on the motor, as you can see. I polished the side covers to a mere finish. Stainless steel bolts off of eBay. Did some polishing up here, cam covers, valve covers, new NGK resistor caps. As you can see, the bike's still a little dirty from sitting in the garage. New spark plug wires, rebuilt the petcocks. Mostly everything on this bike is new. You can see right here, this is the highly coveted VM 34mm carburetor, made in Japan. It's actually a 2-stroke carburetor, and I bought some parts that allowed me to retrofit them to my motor, and I also had to rejet it to the specification provided by Greg Hageman of Hageman Motorcycle Engineering. So I haven't tested him yet. I trust the guy. He seems to know a lot more about these Viragos than I do. That is also where I bought the seat frame for this bike. It was an expensive piece. I did purchase it, but it really makes the bike what it is. I mean, I made my own. As you can see, I've got it sitting over here, and it worked. But it could have been a little bit better, a little bit nicer. Not bad for one of the first seat frames that I've welded together for a bike. Anyway, back to the carbs. I have a TC Bros billet aluminum intakes. I got those from Dime City Cycles. As you can see, they came with the hoses and the hose clamps. And I did have to modify them slightly. As you can see, I added a brass nipple onto the manifold so that I can hook it up to my vacuum petcocks. Therefore, when the vacuum on the motor, vacuum off the intake runs, the petcocks will open up and allow fuel to flow freely. Welded a bracket on right here for my rear dampener adjust. I would love to replace this rear shock and get a Hag-On rear suspension. They're pretty expensive, and right now I just want to get on the road, so it's definitely going to be one of those things I'll do in the future. And then the bracket, I'll just use that as I'll make like a helmet lock to go on there. I'll retrofit something. And this is the crown jewel on the bike. I still have to thread my mount that I made out of a piece of aluminum with some stainless button head Allen screws. It really came out great. The paint job on this thing is top notch. You can kind of see it's got a metallic flare to it. That is Subaru satin white paint. I'm not a person to go with a white paint job on anything, but I felt like if I wanted to do it, I might as well do it right. And white kind of came about because, as you see my seat, I wanted to make a bike with a tan seat. Everybody gave me hell. Oh, are you going to ever replace the seat? Oh, well, yeah, the seat was already replaced. And here it is. It's a Moto Lana seat. I'll give you a hint. Dime City Cycle sells it for about $250. You can buy it straight through Moto Lana between $130 and $150. So I learned my lesson on that one. Dime City Cycles provides a lot of other good stuff, though, at very competitive prices. So I wasn't too worried about it. I am now, but at the time, I mean, I didn't know where else to find that seat. Did the black stripe on it. It's called the Berlin stripe. It was painted on after the pearl coat and then clear coated over, so it's got a real nice feel to it. But anyway, the tan seat was a decision from the beginning because I knew it was going to be a very, very hard thing to come up with a color scheme on a bike to match a tan seat, especially when I wanted the majority of everything black and polished aluminum. So I honestly didn't know the color of the paint until about a week before it was actually painted. I wanted to go with the GM. It's the one metallic color off the Cadillacs. I think they call it white diamond tri-coat. That's what they call it. So I was gonna go with the white diamond tri-coat, but it looked a little bit too gold, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. And went to the Subaru dealership to look at some cars with a buddy, and I came across the satin white, and I just fell in love with it. I couldn't have asked for a better turnout. This tank was full of a cream tank liner. So after a lot of messing around, I was able to get the liner out. I took it to a radiator shop and I had them hot tank it. That really loosened it up. But then it was a mess to get the rest of it out. I was able to pull out what was loose in sheets, and I kind of got a lot of it out. Then I got some industrial staples, and I dumped those in there. So there I was, sitting in the garage in the dead of winter, shaking my tank around, trying to break up all of the coating on the inside. There is some paint thinners out there that are real strong that can also get it out, as I found out at a later time. I went to a buddy's shop where he had some commercial grade paint thinner that they use to paint heavy equipment, and dumped some of that in there just to kind of clean it out, and it got it all out. I also did an acid etch on it too. You can use toilet bowl cleaner, but I ended up using it was just a generic acid made for cleaning out gas tanks. You can get it at any bike shop that sells tank liners. I did not put a liner back in strictly because, I mean, it flaked off. When it was starting to flake off when I got the bike. I mean, the whole gas tank was a wreck, but I knew that, I mean, as long as I keep it full, it won't rust, because gasoline it's oil. I mean, it's distilled oil, or it's an alcohol, but you know what I mean. Front wheel, that is the wheel off of a 1982 Yamaha XV750, I want to say. Got it from local bike scrapyard around here. Had it painted by my good friend Mike Oni. He's a great guy. He does great paint work. As you can see, he also painted my frame and swing arm and all those components. He did not paint the gas tank or the engine, but the work that he did was just phenomenal, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. But up front, I have an adapter on here that allows me to fit the stock rotor onto the Seiko wheel. I had the option if I wanted to go with the 16-inch wheel or if I wanted to go with an 18-inch wheel off the Seiko. I went with the 18 just because I think it really offsets the bike a little bit. And I think it'll also handle a little bit nicer going down the road. But this is a rear wheel, and I got the conversion kit from a gentleman named Matt Dunlavy, or Dunlavy. But I'm really thankful that he provides these kits. It also comes with this hub cover right here that floats freely from the wheel, and it also sets it off real nice. As you can see, I also have my rear hub cover polished, so from the side profile it looks relatively clean and consistent. Rebuilt front suspension. I did a progressive suspension. I lowered it 2 inches. New seals. I also polished the lower fork tubes. A lot of work and polishing on this bike. It really makes it priceless to me. I put some fork boots on here just for the aesthetic purposes, to bring out the look of an old British bike. And my bike, I will admit, it is not a true cafe racer, strictly because I do not have clip-on bars, but I could easily swap out the bars in a day if I got some Tarazi fully adjustable clip-ons. I'd get those just so that I wouldn't run into the tank. But I could always do that in the future. I made sure that I got a braided stainless steel brake line. On this, the ends are also stainless and they thread on. I can show you down here. So I think the Galfer brake lines, those are pressed on. This one threads, so if I ever wanted to swap out the connector, I could. But for me, it was just great because it allowed me to freely spin the line while putting it on the bike, so that way it didn't kink, because these lines will kink on you and they just won't look as nice. Custom Motion Pro speedometer cable. This one is minus 2 inches from the spec of a factory Virago cable, mainly because the front end has been lowered 2 inches, so that's the only reason why I did that. As you can see, it fits really nice up here from the headlight. Headlight mounts, those are from Dime City Cycles. Gauges, also from Dime City. I still have yet to wire up the tachometer, but the majority of the speedometer functions work. So I'd like to do a video once I get this all finished and kind of go over a lot of the stuff that I did. But thank you all for watching, and if you have any questions, I'd love to get to them. I know that most guys don't answer questions strictly because when you do a bike like this, they just pour in, and it's hard to keep up with them from time to time. But yeah, feel free to ask me some questions, and thank you.